Evening, people. Welcome again to the Footy Visionaries Podcast, episode 2. And we're post game week 1 today. We've had a feel of how it's going to look like. We've had a feel. We know what the season potentially is going to look like. And we've had some fun. Game week 1 was absolutely fantastic. And again, as last week, I'm going to start off with the lovely gentleman again in the glasses and the Man U top, even though we're kind of down, not up this time. But Khush, how are you doing, Khush?
Oh, I'm doing well, mate. I'm doing well. I think from what we um from what we saw on the weekend with all the clubs, you can see that there's been a lot of improvement from plenty of the teams, but you can also see that other teams definitely need some recruitment in terms of their team. Some teams just looked really poor that shouldn't do. I think Rich is gonna go on that when you pass it on to him. But at the same time, my own team is looked really good on the weekend despite us losing, but there was some questionable calls, but we'll go through that later on as well. But yeah, I think the weekend was great. I'm happy the Premier League's back, and I can't wait to see what happens this season.
All right, let's not throw the shade on Richard. He's just joined, all right? I'm sure he's had a long day. He's wearing his Hammer shirt in support of the Hammers despite their drubbing this weekend. However, Rich, how are you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Like Khush said, good action this weekend. Looking forward to talking about it and maybe having a rant or two about my own club and a few other clubs. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves just yet.
I am looking forward to that rant. All right, there's nowhere else to start but to start with United versus Arsenal. I'm going to start off with this one, boys. There's a lot of positives. We saw, first of all, Arsenal did not deserve a point, in my opinion. That's facts. They did not deserve to win that game. They get all 3 points. That's number one. Number two, United were unlucky to not get a penalty. I mean, that foul on Cunha by, I think it was Saliba, that should have been a penalty, definitely. And three, it's because we're the weak goalkeeper who could not punch the ball out. Essentially, that cost us the game, and we've been crying out for a keeper this transfer season. Other than that, though, I think there were positives from United's end. How about you, Khush? What do you think?
I think in terms of that game, of course, we had the mistake from Bayern there with he should have been like Raya when it happened to him where he just punched the ball out. And it really highlights the fact that we need a goalkeeper. But according to reports, Ineos aren't going to be focused on a goalkeeper this summer. It's something that's going to be done next summer. I think that they're putting more effort into getting another CDM. In terms of how we were during the game, I think that we were pressing well. We weren't doing it like wild pressing. We were pressing in like more of a uniformed way. Ligt in that game was brilliant to hold off Gyökeres. Gyökeres in himself went missing, but I'm not actually going to focus on Gyökeres in that game. I'm going to focus on their star boy, who was facing against Dorgu. Dorgu, who's had a great preseason, and he played against Saka, and Saka is a very Premier League proven winger, and he could not get through. And that leads me on to our next one, where because I was watching the game with my brother, I said to my brother, "Does Saka do it in the big games?" And certain games he can show up, but like most games, good defenders know what he's going to do most of the time. He's going to try cut in and try curl that ball in. But if you saw in that game, he wasn't able to do that. And anytime he did try to do that, he would be blocked off more or less straight away. And then going into our defense, Euro, De Ligt, and Shaw were holding on that line. And Gyökeres couldn't get through. I don't rate Martinelli, so I'm not going to talk about him. And Odegaard didn't actually do well either. Then you can see that there was a bit of a problem in our midfield where we do need that Baleva player or that player that can run the line and let Bruno push forward. But everyone knows that it's not something that's new. But then we get to our creme de la creme of our game, which was our attacking options. If you saw Mbeumo in that game, there's a reason why we shelled out the big bucks, and he was showing it. And then Cunha started from the front, even though he wasn't showing much. When we put him in that 10, he was causing loads of problems. Then Sesko only played for like 20 minutes. You can't judge a game on 20 minutes, but there was signs there. I think he just still needs to embed in the squad. And you can't take away from Mount. Mount did really well in that game. And I know Josh is not going to agree with me, but Casta in that game did break up a lot of play for United, and he did spray that ball really well. So I think there's a lot of positives to take from that. I think overall we should have won that. We should have won that game. I don't even think we should have drawn that game. We should have won that game, but there's been questionable refereeing calls. And it's a shame that we came away with nothing.
All right, Rich. As a neutral, you're watching this game. You had no vested interest, obviously. You're just watching it from a pure footballing perspective. How was that game for you?
I think it was one of the most exciting games at the weekend. It was going back to old school about how that derby used to be, end-to-end stuff. Both teams going for it. Okay, towards the latter engine and latter stages, it changed a bit, but throughout, it was an exciting game. It was just awesome to watch. United did surprise me a lot. I was a bit of a doubter of Mbeumo, sorry. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but the £70 million price tag I thought was a bit extortionate. However, I think he's proved doubters wrong if there were any apart from myself. And United the progress was there. They've actually shown that what they're doing is working. Again, as Khush said, they need a few more players, especially when it came to the substitutions. Gatti, sorry, good player, but I just felt like he didn't short that midfield. He came on and he just felt like he was lost, a bit of like a chicken, rabbit headlights sort of thing. And the back three played really well, especially like Luke Shaw coming back as well. Him centre back really well. I actually quite surprised to see him there, him starting over Maguire. But of course, the manager knows what he's doing. And then for Arsenal, I thought they played well. Lucky with the goal, I have to admit. They had periods where they were quite dominant, but they just looked a bit afraid. And the atmosphere at that stadium, I've not heard of that electric in a while either.
I kind of disagree on that sense that Arsenal played well. I think they played really bad. I don't think they had anything going forward. If you looked at the stats in general, United had 25 shots, and I can't remember off the top of my head how many shots on target. I think Arsenal only had one throughout the entire game.
22 shots for United and 7 on target.
And then Arsenal had way less shots. They didn't have any impact in that game. The only reason they scored is due to a goalkeeping error. I think if that goalkeeping error didn't happen, they're not doing anything in that entire game. They looked afraid from the start. And then as soon as they got that 1-0 goal, they parked the bus. They completely shut shop.
Yeah, I think I agree with you guys as well, especially Khush. I think, first of all, I'm going to come from United's standpoint. United had most of the ball, which I was not expecting United to have a lot of the ball, to be fair, so our position was good. And I think for me, first of all, if we talk about Cunha and Mbeumo, when Cunha was playing that false 9 with Mount on the left, it wasn't really gelling. Mbeumo was doing the most damage, but as soon as Cunha went to the left side, and then Mount, I think, went to the middle, and then they swapped with Sesko. I saw the best of Cunha and Mbeumo. So for me personally, I think the takeaway is from Cunha and Mbeumo. Cunha is one person who gets the ball to the feet and moves it forward. He can dribble. Like, I remember there's one time he dribbled like 3-4 Arsenal players before he was out of gas, before he actually shot the ball. So give Cunha the ball to the feet, and he'll do magic with it. I think Mbeumo is one person who runs onto the ball, give him a lot of space to run into, and he's gonna literally, explode and create chances. I actually see why. So before this, I did not know why Amorim did not like to play Bruno on one of those 2-10s. And having seen Cunha and Mbeumo do it, I now understand why. I don't think Bruno has that athleticism that Amorim wants from the 10s. You saw it from Cunha and you saw it from Mbeumo. Yesterday, it was so different. Whereas in someone like Garnacho last season, he has the athleticism but doesn't have the decision making. You know what I mean? So he can run it but doesn't know how to. Whereas in Mbeumo and Kenya, even though they're different players, they have it. So I mean, there's no way for Bruno in those 2-10s in Amorim's system now. So he has to drop down. My only problem though is when he does drop down, he did cover a lot of kilometers, yes, but against a team like City who can really punish that midfield, we'll be lacking, because Arsenal yesterday were terrible, in my opinion. I don't know what you think, Rich, but yesterday Arsenal, there was like many chances I could see United were open in the midfield, and they didn't take that. Like, Arsenal really had no leg to stand on.
But I do agree with you. They started to backtrack and park the bus a lot, but isn't that a sign of a good team that they can still win even when they're having a bad period or having a bad game? Like, they won't win their luck. They still defended quite well. Again, argue refereeing decision, especially on the penalty, which you mentioned earlier. But I just think that they're still a good team. And they're just kicking off again, aren't they? They probably had a long pre-season. They looked a bit leggy, but ultimately they still won the game. And you can't argue that a good team will still win the game regardless of how they play on the day. Man U did a whole season of it more or less.
I think with the penalty call, there's reason from what people been what referees have said that the reason why it wouldn't been given is because Cunha was going into the ball and going towards Saliba while Saliba was still, but it doesn't take away from the fact that Saliba went to ground, doesn't connect anything with the ball, gets all foot and takes down Cunha, and then we're meant to have VAR for these types of things to stop errors from happening, and then VAR, of course, doesn't come into play. And again, it's bad officiating in the Premier League. I think you saw that a lot last season. It's been quite an ongoing thing that officiating hasn't been up to standard for a while in the Premier League, and this is something that needs to be addressed. I think VAR is a good concept, but it's not working because for some reason or another, British referees don't know how to referee in the UK. But when it comes to like UEFA competitions, they're somehow one of the good ones.
Yeah, with that challenge, I don't think you can blame VAR though for that. I think what VAR has done, in my opinion, is that it's highlighted how incompetent the refereeing is, because VAR is just a tool. So VAR is there to be used, and they don't use it. I think that's what it is. Because I'll give you an example. Before we had VAR, we'd always complain about, the ref didn't see this decision, whatever, or the ref didn't spend time thinking about it. Now they have the time to think about it, and they still make the bad decisions. You know what I mean? So it can't be a VAR problem. It has to be something else, i.e. the refereeing. So that means instead of actually blaming VAR, I think we should blame incompetent refs. Because, for example, that foul we're talking about, right? Like you said, Saliba came behind him. Cunha was going to get the ball. I think it was Saliba's left foot on Cunha's left foot just before he got the ball, making Cunha like kind of, slide down, and then he didn't get any of the ball, like you said. The VAR, they replayed it. They're like, it's fine. So what I mean? So VAR, literally, they replayed it. So they were saying, oh, this is checking. So they checked it. They said it's fine. So VAR is doing its job. VAR is highlighting, or rather, the tool is there to highlight the problems that they have. They're just not using it. So then do we have the question of, is it the refs that needs to be changed? Is it the refs that need to be educated? Because it's not VR which is a problem. VR is just a tool. It's just like you've got a manual car, a manual sports car which you're using, right? It's not automatic. You just can't go from gear 1 to gear 4. It's not going to drive out well. You have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's what we have. VR is that beautiful, nice sports car we have with, it's a manual car, but they're not shifting the gears well. They're not using it well. What do you think, Rich? Because that's what I think.
I think there's periods where it's good and bad. Of course, there's two other instances that happened this weekend in the Liverpool game and the Crystal Palace game, which I believe we'll be going on to shortly anyway. I believe it's a useful tool, but I think we should just keep it for offsides and potentially red cards or yellow to red cards. It's just getting too complicated now. People's understanding of it is getting silly. But on the other hand, is that still making football exciting? Like, they're bringing in new stuff to sort out the issues. However, we're still having a controversy, what football fans love. Like, we thrive off it. If there's no controversy in football, then I don't think it'd be as popular, because we love having a moan. We love having like something to talk to about a game. A game could be brilliant, but without that controversy in there, like a bit of a naughty challenge, or did the ball go out, or VAR, I think it would be a bit less dull. It's good and it's bad, in my opinion. It needs to get better, but I think the referees do the best they can with the information they got. And again, it's all to do with interpretation at the end of the day. What I might think, you two might think something completely different. So
I think with the VAR, in terms of offsides, I think they've got the semi-automated offsides now. So I think they don't really need to use that, because they've been using that for like Euros and UEFA competitions. But I think with the VAR, in terms of that situation, they're meant to point out a clear error. And the fact is, they didn't. And this is not the first time it's happened. I think it's happened quite a couple of times. And again, I'm going to go back to last season, where it's happened a couple of times, especially to one of the relegated teams. And the PGMOL have come out and said, "Oh, we hold our hands up. We did make a mistake." That does not cover it, because that's going to affect the season, because those decisions can change a game. If you're not giving those decisions, you're basically handicapping a team.
So for me, what I would say is, For example, I think we should still keep VAR, right? But hear me out here. So we've established that VAR is a tool which is used to make the decisions, right? And we've now seen that the refs cannot make the decisions well. So is it now time that we talk about the independent football regulator who was talked about coming into football? So now we have an independent football regulator. He watches the game. For example, he'll watch this United, he or she will watch the United game. There's that penalty decision which was not taken in, and it's been confirmed that it was checked by the referee, the refs in Stokely Park. Cool. So now, let's say they did not make that decision. We now have the regulator who's going to come in and say, okay, why did you not make the decision? A, B, C, D, E. Okay, you're going to be fined this week because clearly I can see that. Or we have an independent panel of people who can review that as well, of anonymous people. They change, like a jury, they change week by week by week. All right. Then we have them analyze that. Independent, they're anonymous, they'll never be known, and then they can decide, okay, that was a pen, that was not a pen. Well, what do you think about that? Because I don't think it's a VR problem, because VR is just a tool highlighting people's incompetence. Because how can you see that and not call it a penalty?
I mean, I see what you're saying there, but it's again, how much do you slow down the game? The issue with football is it's fast paced. It's not like cricket. It's not tennis. It's not rugby. Those are games where the games slow down, or they can have a little break. Think, okay, let's sort that person out, or let's just check this while everyone's waiting. It happens. I think if you do that in football, I do feel like it could take even longer. It could not. I could be proved wrong. However, they also don't have the feeling of the game. Like, you are right, the refs do make howlers at times, but football players make howlers. You see the amount of times where someone scored an own goal, or someone's just lost their head a bit. Refs are allowed to have that human error, and I just think that if you try to tinker with it too much, it could ruin the game. Because ultimately, you could have a referee having a really good day at game, tackles are flying left, right, and centre, and he's like, it's a derby, or it's a highly sought game between two players, Champions League final, for instance, and they're there feeling the emotions. So they allow stuff to happen. They realise, okay, he's just get a bit excited, let that one go. Where if you bring a panel in, they don't see that. So they just say, well, that's a challenge, that's a red card. You can't have that, and it's just there's too many anomalies in football to change it as what you're saying, in my opinion.
No, I hear you on that. All right. Let's talk quickly about Gyökeres. 60 minutes he played. Some people said he was wearing Timberland boots during the game. What do you guys think, Khush? I mean, you said strikers last week, so
In terms of Gyökeres, I think it's apparent that his best attributes are still need to be found out by Arteta. I don't think Arteta understands how to use a striker, because for 3 seasons he's used Havertz, who's a centre attacking mid, as a false nine. But now that he has that attacking midfielder, it's going to have a bit of an effect on the team, because they're not used to playing with a striker. You can see that as well, because they weren't able to get the passes into him. They weren't doing those crosses that you would expect to get to him. I think in preseason he scored a header, but if you looked at those games that he did play, I know he didn't have a full preseason, but the game he did play, he got into good positions, but I don't think Arsenal teams were able to get the balls to him as frequent. In terms of, he didn't look good from the start. I said this last week, that he's going to struggle this season, because it's Portuguese strikers who have come to the Premier League have notoriously struggled at the beginning. People have doubted me when I said this, and yesterday was clear proof that he is going to struggle, but he is going to score. Don't get me wrong, but he's going to struggle. One, because it's a new cog to the Arsenal system that hasn't had a striker ever, apart from maybe Aubameyang, but Arteta pushed him out, pushed Lacazette out. So they haven't had a clear out-and-out striker for 3 seasons maybe. So it's going to be a bit of a change, if you get what I mean. It's going to be very difficult for them to get ahead. in that system. I don't think they're gonna if Sunday is the marker of how they're gonna be all season, I don't think they're gonna win anything.
That was my next question to Rich. Rich, what do you think about Arsenal for the rest of the season after that performance? Will they kick on? Is it one of those they had to grind out the win because United were that good? Or is it a thing of they can't really create? It's too early to tell. What do you think?
I think they'll grind on. Again, whether they'll win anything, I'm not sure. Liverpool on Friday, they looked strong. They looked a bit defensively iffy, but I think they have enough to at least push on, maybe get a top two. But I don't think they'll win anything. I just don't think they still have the depth in their squad, and I think they rely on too many individual players. They always rely on if Odegaard's not pinging the ball left, right, and centre, they've lost it. Same as United with Fernandes. If he's not pinging the ball, passing all the through balls and that, they aren't going to win anything. I just think it is a bit of a blip for them. Again, it was, Old Trafford's first game of the season. The crowd was electric. They were under pressure, and the pressure that your front three were putting onto them was anybody would struggle. And it's the same when we go on to like Sunderland with West Ham. The pressure they just had just kept attacking. All you can do is defend that and hope for the best.
One person. I know you said Liverpool, but you can never discount City. And one person that stands out from their game is Reinders. That dude, he is that KDB hole, I think. The way he went into that game, the way he was gliding past players, the passing, that game, the awareness in that game. Yeah, City have got a gem on their hands, and you can't discount them at this point. With him playing like that, you cannot discount.
So that brings us nicely into City. Let's quickly talk about City before we move on. 4-0, Haaland on the score sheet. But like you said, Reinders, for me, I'm going to start. He was starting in from a deeper role and coming into the game. And I won't even lie to you guys, I really enjoyed that performance. Like, I was watching him and he was balling out. Like you said, I think he's that KDB-esque type player, but I think he has a better carrying capacity. I think he's like a hybrid of KDB and Yaya Toure kind of thing because of the way he comes in from deep with the ball carrying ability. So, I mean, I'm dismayed to say this, but I'm actually excited to see what he's going to do in the season. City are looking good as well, like off the ball, on the ball. Granted, the first game of the season, but Rich, like what I saw from City this last weekend was so good. What do you think?
I agree, they played really well. However, I do think Wolverhampton made it a bit easy for them. I think maybe 2, possibly 3 of the goals were just defensive errors. It was just, being lazy with the ball, not getting position, not defending correctly. So yes, Man City have to be in a position to score them goals. But when you're giving stuff on the plate, like some of the goals were, anybody's going to walk over a team. So yes, I think they played really well, but Wolverhampton made it easier for them.
No, I agree in that sense, because we alluded to this. I alluded to this last week where I said I think Wolves have lost lost a key player in Cunha. They've lost certain players in their midfield, and I think they're going to struggle this season. They haven't invested very well into their squad. They've got a good manager, but I think they're going to struggle really hard this season. Same thing with Brentford as well. If you saw them when they played against Nottingham Forest, because they look a bit of a shambles at points. They did not look coherent, like as you see a Brentford side. Yeah, those two I think are going to struggle.
I mean, I do hear what you're saying about Wolves. They did make it a bit easy on that, but I actually think before City started scoring, it was a bit more of an even game. I think Strand Larson could have taken some chances a bit better, because they fed him about twice. He was a presence that I think the first few moments of the game before City started going on. But at the same time, I think City is just coming back to where they are. I mean, there's a recent comment which people were speaking about by Pep about having maybe too many options, too many players. If you were City, or if you were in a City decision-making capacity, A, do you think City have too many players? And B, which players did you move on? Because to be fair, there is a lot of players. I mean, just in the midfield itself, on the wings. What do you think? And also, they might sell Edison and they already have Trafford and bring in Donnarumma. I mean, talk about greed.
City are notoriously known for spending big, but it's rare to have a Pep Guardiola side that's got a load of options. He likes his squads, like he likes to know what his squads are going to be a week out. So I think Edison's going to leave. You got Grealish already left. Still, so many. The window is still open as well. So they're going to. I think Donnarumma's definitely chosen them. as his destination. So now they've got probably the best goalkeeper in the world in terms of what he's done last season. But I think with City in itself, I think they, as you said, Wolves made it easy for them. I think if they went against like a bigger team, I think Reinders doesn't get that space in midfield. And if he gets more quality midfielders against him, I think it's going to be an interesting watch.
Mm.
No,
Do you not?
Yeah, go ahead, Grish.
Yeah, sorry. I said, do you not also think that comment about Pep having too many players? Don't you think that he's brought that on himself, though? You think in the January transfer window of last season, he brought, what, 3 or 4 players in? And where are they now? They're just sat on the bench, probably not even on the bench in the under 21s, maybe. So, like, he's complaining he's brought them on players, but he's the one bringing these players in. You know, I'm not bringing them in. You're not bringing them in.
I think it's a result of Pep trying to pull himself. I mean, last season was terrible for City. Like, we all know that they did hit the highest they did, even though they still qualify for the Champions League. And I think it's the right approach, but then it's backfired now. You know what I mean? Last season, they were really trying to dig themselves out. I mean, in January, they were buying as well. They were just trying to dig themselves out of that hole they were going into. And now Pep has gone into this transfer window with a clear picture of how he wants to play. You can see it from the signings he's made. You can see it from bringing Bob back in. Now, Oscar Bob played quite well as well, to be fair. Reinders. You can see that there's like a different type of City play, which is a bit less technical than it used to be and a bit more free-flowing. So there was definitely, I think, in Pep's head, a way he wants to play. And then in his head, he bought the players who he wants to play that way with, but now he has to sell the other ones as well. To be fair, he said it himself. He said like his squad is too big and it might affect squad morale. So I think there's going to be outgoings, but I think it's a result of him trying to dig himself out. And I don't blame him for it because because at least City is actually backing him. They realize, look, we're not playing well. We need to do something this summer season. Let's get him the players he wants now. We can sort out everything in the summer, which they did now. They've sorted out everything in the summer. They got the players.
I've got something to say about that.
I know, but as a United
City have always backed their managers. That's the only thing. They've always backed their managers.
But as a United fan,
you can't say that City are now backing their managers. They've always backed their managers. They've been backing their managers since they've been taken over.
I'm not saying they're now backing the manager, but dude, as a United fan, it's sad to see. Like, I'll give an example. Last season, we're like, gosh, we need this. But even now, right now, for example, during this game, it's clear we need a goalkeeper. Banter came off with that one and just pounded, and it went through. Granted, there's a bit of effort, but come on, you be firm. You know, if this was City yesterday, tomorrow they'll be announcing a goalkeeper. Do you know what I mean? Like tomorrow, not even.
Yeah, it's that urgency, isn't it?
Exactly. We don't have that. And that's what I say, I can't really blame City for that. They were in a struggling situation. Let's dig Pep out. They dug him out. And now obviously it's backfired because there's too many people, which hopefully they'll sell. But I can't as a United fan who's starving for this, I can't blame them, you know? But yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah.
I think it's time to get on to the main event of the evening.
I think it is. I was gonna say that as well. So, Rich, please talk us through the Hammers performance on Saturday and how you feel about that.
This was all season, that is. You know what I mean? You know what? I can't fault Sunderland. They came in with a pure game plan and it worked. I watched the first half. I didn't catch the second half. Of course, all the highlights. They were just all over. They were just electric. Sorry. Again, the atmosphere, you know, they talk about the 12th man. Their fans made the 12th, 13th man. They were just so much energy, so fit, so athletic. And they knew they had tactics and they knew exactly what they wanted to do, which is surprising from a team that I think the starting lineup had 5 or 6 new players in, I think it was. So you expected them to take a while to gel in, but they came out and they were like, they're ready to kick someone's backside, sort of thing. They're ready to take a scout. They prove that they were here to stay. They're not here to, you know, make it the numbers. So Sunderland, honestly, I was very impressed with them. However, we were a victim of our own cause as well. Again, first half, we played quite well. We were in the game. We had a lot of possession. We just weren't doing anything with the possession. Ballard got clear one off the line, which I think if that went in, I think it changed the game. It would have settled the crowd. Unfortunately, he cleared it off from Diouf, it was. Bowen played quite well. He had a few shots, and I think he was, again, as it was all last season, one of our best players, him and Wan-Bissaka. Our issue was our midfield. Like we had James Ward-Prowse and Rodriguez and Paqueta. Paqueta's just been told he's not getting a lifetime ban, which is great for him, and he's been very good ball pre-season. But on Saturday, I've always said about him, he's a very good player, but he's a sort of number 10 where he's like, you give me like Ozil used to be. Like you get me the ball, I would do wonders with it. But you expect me to track back, I will, but to a certain point. And with him having Rodriguez and James Ward-Prowse behind him was one of the most infuriating midfields that we can. And he did it a couple of times last season and it did not work. But yet he decides to put him in there. Rodriguez, who's on about going to Saudi next week for like 6.5 million. And he goes, oh, stick him in midfield. Like, why do you put a player who's got one foot out the door in midfield, who last season you've proven it was rubbish? Like, he looked leggy. He just didn't have a clue what he was doing. He just looked. I think my nephew would do better than him in midfield. And then James Ward-Prowse, I love the guy. I think he's a great asset to a team if you had a quarterback system. Now, if you ask him for whipping the ball, he'll whip it all day. But you ask him to have the legs in midfield, he just doesn't have it. I don't think he's ever had it, which is the biggest issue. And then we had them goes to his goalkeeper. He's only been at the club for like a week, and he starts off over Areola. And he made some very good saves, but the third goal that we let in, he should be saving that. He went to scoop it for some reason rather than passing it wide. But this goes on with a list of issues. Oh, and to top it off, actually, my rant is the worst thing about it is Callum Wilson getting on the pitch. I can't remember how much he's on per appearance, but now he's got like, oh, here's 10 minutes, have like an extra $9,000 in your back pocket. And I'm like, come on, lads, like we're in a bit of a financial crisis already. You're signing a player who you got in the pay-per-play contract who goes against what we're trying to do. It's just not working. And I think it's what's to come as well. I was very optimistic last week, but this week I think we're going to struggle. And that just goes from the chairman downwards, the stadium. We're just not in a good place. I heard that the stadium was, Adrian Durham, TalkSport guy, he ranked the stadium 92nd out of all the stadiums. And we currently had a poll from WHUST where they said that 95% of the fans have stated the new stadium isn't better than Upton Park. We've just become a bit of a soulless club now. I had a season ticket for 2 years, and even when I went there, it was like a library. Might as well get my Sudoku out watching the game. It was just like we had some good nights, but the atmosphere just wasn't there. That's what you get when you go to a bigger club, a bigger stadium. Yeah, our transfer policy isn't the best. We just keep getting free transfers after free transfers. We haven't got better from last season. Like you buy players in, like yourself, Manu, you bought in Kuna and Brumu to get the club better. We bring in Callum Wilson.
Do you think the reason for that is? Would you say that West Ham is a desirable club to go to, so that then it would be a much more difficult place for a player to want to go to?
I don't see why a player would come to West Ham in the current state we're in. You look at Jacob Ramsey. We go, oh, we'll buy you, Jacob. And he goes, well, I want to go to a club that's got more ambition. So he signed for Newcastle. Like we should be, okay, I understand Newcastle are in Champions League football, or Champions League football they're in. So they have more appeal than we have. But we should still be getting decent signings. And I think I said last week, George Hall going to Everton, Morton going to a French club. We should be signing these players, but we're just not going for them. Instead, we go for £30 million for Fernandes for Southampton. No one went along and get him. We just weren't play well. We didn't play so well Saturday, and as soon as the first goal went in, as it's been for last season, especially under David Moyes as well, if we go 1-0 down, everyone's head drops. And I just don't think Potter's getting the best out of his players at the moment, but I don't entirely blame him.
Do you think he's the right guy to lead your club?
I think he is, but then if you look at the Brighton job he did at Brighton, he was his first season too. They were towards the bottom. They were getting beat most weeks. They're getting a draw, getting a win every now and again. But you can see a bit of development you can see a bit of structure of what he's trying to do. And, I know Brighton's been taken on by other managers now and they've evolved it, but he's got that base level where he can get the club there. It's just I just think we are too far away from what he wants to do at this moment in time.
Actually, yeah. So I watched the part of the game as well, and I have to say, your midfield, first of all, was like a hot knife through butter. Like they were charging your midfield, and they had numbers. And then when their front three were having the ball, it was exceptional. Like exceptional to watch, but disappointing from a from West Ham point of view. But one thing which I noted, especially was it for Sunderland's second or third goal, was when Paqueta received the ball. So ball went in, was it to the fullback or to the centre back, and then went into Paqueta after that, and he just literally just touched the ball and they were on him, but he didn't even play a proper pass. I just felt like he was not interested, you know, and I know like he just come back from a difficult situation, but I just felt like he was. And I felt like it was embodying most of the Western players, except for Wan Bissaka and Bowen, because Bowen, there's a time he did a lovely turn and you didn't score, went to the thing. So I don't know. Do you think it's a player problem, as in almost all the players have got their heads down? Because even that one was just from a goal kick. That goal was from a goal kick. Paqueta got the ball. All it was a simple firm pass to the fullback and he runs into space and that goal doesn't come about. But then it just seemed like it didn't care.
Paqueta's been notorious for doing that since he's been with us. He's been notorious at playing that sloppy pass or trying to do too much. He feels like he has I get that. He has a point to prove. He needs to, but he does a bit too much at times, and he's often lost the ball for us, and which led to goals. But again, he's recently said that he's got us one, and his head turned. I think we're willing to accept about £35 million for him to go, which again, for a club we're struggling financially, it doesn't look good for us when players are saying, well, he's gone. Kudos went, well, he's gone. Paqueta could be going. And from the outside looking in, you're thinking, oh, I don't know how I feel about this. So I just think that we've got players who are individuals and not team players, personally.
Do you think Kudus was a big loss? This summer?
I think he was a loss, yes. But his issue is we always found it hard to balance him. It was fine when we didn't have a striker. We could play Bowen as a striker. But Kudos on the left doesn't do as well as he does on the right. And because Bowen's on the right-hand side for us, we found it hard to get him into our team. So it was a big loss, I agree. But last season, he wasn't good enough last season either. So it's a catch-22, really. I think if we kept him, great. If we lost him, we should have bought better players, but we haven't yet.
Here's a question for you both. I'm going to start with Khush on this one. Was Graham Potter a one-season wonder?
No, I don't think he was a one-season wonder. The reason he got that Chelsea job is because he did a great job at Brighton and to start with, and he was there for like 2-3 seasons. So can't call him a one-season wonder. I think he was just unfortunate with the Chelsea job because he was going through a period of change because they've lost Abramovich. They got the new owners coming in. The new owners didn't really like the way the previous manager did. They thought he could fix the problem. And it just didn't work out, and it's really affected his career in the long term now, because if you lose a job like Chelsea, you basically are on a death sentence until like a lower-sided team, no offense, Rich, but like a lower-sided team comes and picks you up.
Yeah, I don't think he's a one-hit wonder, but I do believe that there are certain managers that work with certain clubs.
David Moyes,
for example. I mean, David Moyes, I think he's a very good man, David Moyes. But as soon as you find his plan A, he's easy beatable. I think there's managers out there, for example, for Peterborough United, for example, the last couple of years they fluctuated between two managers, which is Darren Ferguson and Grant McCann, because they are two managers who know the club and who work around that club. Okay, Grant McCann's doing better now with Doncaster, but they are that sort of managers that suit a club. I think Graham Potter is a good manager. If he went to Brentford, I think he'd be very good at Brentford, because their style, their family orientated, the way they handle their team, handle the club, is perfect to what he was. With us, I don't think he's so suited as much, because the owners have got no drive. They've got no ambition and drive.
Yeah, I think with West Ham, it's just an unfortunate thing, because you were hitting the highs when you had your Declan Rices and everything a couple of seasons ago when you won the Europa Conference League. You got into the Europa League, you got to the finals. And since he's left, I just felt like the clubs had a massive drop-off because you haven't invested in your squad too well. And you got a good hefty fee for it, but you just haven't invested in the squad too well. I think the necessary areas that you needed to pick up on, I know the whole of Declan Rice would be massive to fill, but you needed a CDM that had similar attributes to like have like a bit of a plaster, if you were to say, to until you found a long-term fix.
I completely agree. Yeah, I got nothing more to say on that. He was a big hole to fill, and no one's filled it yet.
Maybe it's right now it's a time of rebuilding, but it's just a shambles, I think, at West Ham.
Yeah, agreed.
I think from going to a point where you were going to be maybe challenging for the Europa League spots and the Conference League spots, you just haven't invested in the squad too well. I can't. It's a lot talking from a United fan's perspective, because we've been awful in terms of our transfer policy. But I think in terms of, since you've lost Declan Rice, I think it's been a drastic drop off.
No, I agree. Yeah, we haven't invested, and this is a poor transfer policy. And I believe that it doesn't help when you got O'Sullivan, who's the chairman, being a director of football as well. Where I heard it, if you know his backstory, how he got his money, it's not very football minded, I should say. But yeah, that's my verdict. We just hats off to Sunderland. I think they're going to be very good this season, and we just weren't good enough. They showed us everything that we need right now.
Speaking of that, so Leeds have just defeated Everton 1-0 whilst we're just doing this podcast. Khush, the promoter teams, they're looking strong. You saw what Sunderland did to West Ham. We're just talking about that. Leeds have just beat Everton. Albeit Everton are having struggles. What do you think about that?
I was watching the game before we started the podcast, and with the way Leeds were playing, they were pressing Everton. Everton didn't have any space whilst they're doing it. They looked really good. They were basically doing what they did in the Championship last season, where they would just suffocate teams. I know they've added height to their squad, but if you looked at how they played last season, they scored more goals due to their pressing play and the way they attack the ball. Then you look at a team like Sunderland, who have basically revamped their entire squad and got experienced players like Granit Xhaka to come in and captain that side. And then you have players like Adingra, who's been in the Premier League for a season, so he knows what it's like. So they're going to be players that are going to help the teams. But then you have a team like Burnley, who's been a notorious yo-yo team, where they come up. They're a very good Championship side, but they just don't have the funds to compete in the Premier League. It's going to be an interesting season in terms of the relegation battles. I see Burnley going down. With the way Sunderland played, there's no reason why they won't stay up. And with the way Leeds played tonight, there's no reason why they can't stay up. In terms of getting into that relegation fight, from the way Wolves played, Brentford played, West Ham played, and Everton played, they might all get sucked into it this season.
Rich, what do you think, though? Do you think that it's a thing of Sunderland and Leeds played two of the teams which were struggling last season, and maybe like West Ham and Everton are going to continue struggling this season? So is it Leeds and Sunderland got lucky, or do you actually see like light into the tunnel that they'll actually stay up?
I don't think they got lucky, because they both played exceptionally well. And again, it just showed the issues that both West Ham and Everton have. There's a lot of West Ham and Everton fans who are like joined together about how our clubs aren't being the best run at the moment. However, they've both had home games to start off the season, and both just been promoted, starting off as a home game. Again, I banged about a couple of times now about club atmosphere, but Ellen Road and Stadium of Light, some of the best stadiums you can go to watch the game. And I think that has massively helped them. And when you've got two clubs going there who struggled last season to this, I think they had the opportunity to have a perfect start, and they took that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm particularly impressed by Sunderland. The hunger, the determination, the chasing, that was something I saw. And I think if they can maintain that energy, I think they're going to be all right. Like you said, I think now we might have a conversation about some of the old boys. I mean, as much as I don't want it to happen, but Everton might need to, really shape up. West Ham as well, they need to be, up for it. Brentford, definitely for me, I can't see a way out for Brentford, to be fair. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a strong one for the new boys, but that brings us up to two teams I want to talk about quickly. First team being Spurs. Granted, it was Burnley. Granted, Burnley lost Trafford. But I was really impressed by Spurs. I mean, the way Thomas Frank set up, Rich Ellison. I mean, two fantastic crosses, two fantastic goals by Richarlison. They're working quite well, structured performance as well. What do you guys think about Spurs? Because I was personally impressed. And if they bring in Eze Savigno to the mix, who knows? The sky's the limit.
I think with Spurs, it's been that same story for a while now, is that they can get these wins and then look like they're doing really well. But if they can sustain that for the rest of the season, because with Spurs in general, they normally do tend to be inconsistent in certain games, and when it comes to the big teams, they do tend to freeze up. And will these players that they're bringing in, such as Eze, such as Richarlison, be able to, or Kudus, be able to make a difference in those games? That is there to see. I would love to see them perform, but in the end, it's if they can be consistent enough in that sense.
Rich, what do you think? Having watched that, I mean, Kudus performed very well for them. And what would you rather have? Would you rather have Solanke starting up front or Richarlison starting up front?
I've always I always liked Solanke. I haven't always rated him, sorry, but I've always liked Solanke. His time at Bournemouth, I thought he could go places, but since he made that move to Spurs, he hasn't quite made it yet. Where Richarlison, again, he's good time at Watford, good time at Everton. He time at Spurs wasn't too well, and especially the fact he was meant to be getting sold this season as well. But Thomas Frank decided to keep him. I think they've done very well. I also think Richarlison in that structure, I think it benefits him. But it's a shame seeing an English striker, Solanke, not get in. But I just think he hasn't proved himself. Where Richarlison's taken his chances, he's shown that he's here to stay, and I just think that he would win that place. I think he'll be the starter, especially after the performance against Burnley. He just has to try and prove against the bigger clubs now.
Yeah, that's true. I think for me personally, as much as I would have loved Solanke to work out, which he still can, to be fair. I just think Richarlison has untapped potential, which Ange was not able to get the best out of.
Yeah.
I think if you look at even just technicality, I think Richarlison is just a bit better than Solanke. Solanke is that big number 9 who can run in the channels and all that, but I think Richarlison can just manipulate that space, and there's a bit more flair and technicality to him. And
I'm going to disagree with you on that one, because Richarlison was bought in by, wasn't it, Mourinho or Conte, and he still wasn't showing his potential then. And then with Ange, that whole system was flawed anyway. He was relying on certain players to push him to the end. I think because it's the first game, he wanted to prove himself in that game and be the main striker. But is Richarlison really the guy you want to go forward with? One, he has attitude issues. He's notoriously known for being in the attitude, and he's inconsistent. So you need to really take that with a pinch of salt when you do that. When you say he fits the system, because he may score 2 against Burnley, and I really want to iterate who have lost players. So I don't want everyone to get on a high horse about Richarlison being a good player, taking good goals, because it's Burnley. He needs to play, once he plays against a proper Premier League side, you're going to actually have to see if he can do it.
But then, was it his fault though? For example, Conte brought him in, and whenever he came in, Kane was the main striker, so he had to be pushed to the left. But Richarlison had to play as a left winger coming in. And then last season, you're thinking, it's Richarlison's time to shine. No, they bought, what's his name, Solanke in. So he's never really had a chance.
There's a reason why. There's a reason why they've done this. There's a reason they can't trust him. If they can trust him, they would not bring another striker in, or they would bring a second choice striker in. They do not trust him, those two managers. Hopefully, Frank does, but the other two managers haven't trusted him. And again, they played against Burnley. Please take that in They played against Burnley, so they came in with a swagger because they thought they were going to win. Do you think they're going to come in with that swagger when they play against the City or Liverpool? No, they're going to drop back and defend.
I do understand you, but I'm going to make a case here because, for example, it's Kane. There's no way on earth you're coming in to displace Kane. So Kane was coming in, Kane left, and as soon as Kane left, Solanke was bought. There was not even a season where he had to prove himself. Kane left, Solanke was bought. 60 mil.
No, Solanke was born in Ange's second season.
Yeah, but then didn't
And then
Kane
that
leave after
first season,
first season?
and he left before Ange's first season.
Fair. I still think he wasn't given time, but hey, it's Burnley, to be fair. I think what it needs, let's give him, for me personally, I'll say give him 5 games as a main striker, see how he does. If he does well,
Yeah.
then get. What about you, Rich?
Well, don't forget, going on what you're saying, you had Son playing for the middle for a bit as well.
Exactly.
And he was on form of life when he scored that goal against Burnley. I think that might be the same season where he ran literally the whole length of the pitch. And you had the informed Son you were playing against. But I do agree with yourself, Josh. I do think he's not being given a chance. But again, how many times do you give someone a chance who's got a bad attitude? Whereas Morrison, like, he got given chance after chance after chance. And he just had such a bad attitude. It got him nowhere. Like, eventually, he just got sold on and sold on. How many opportunities do you give someone before you think, oh, you're just a bad apple, you need to get shipped on? Balotelli, it was another one. Great striker, just attitude and attitude. He was given his chances, and he scored some great goals, played for some great teams. Yeah, now he's playing, I believe, for I think it's like a League 2 team in France.
It's true. It's true. I think.
Nah. Yep.
It's just bad attitude. I think again, he scored 2 against Burnley. I want to see him play against the big teams and see if he can perform against the big teams. But I don't think he will.
Yeah, I know, fair. I hear about attitude. Fingers crossed we see how he does in the next 5 games, if he's not changed. If he is, I think it's time to move on. But speaking of, quickly going to touch on Crystal Palace and Chelsea. That disallowed goal, which I personally believe is a shambles, because honestly, he just muscled him out, blasted into the top corner. I think the goal should have stood. The ref said he was encroaching beyond the line, which he went sideways, maybe a little bit forwards, but like 90% of his body went sideways. I don't think there was any viable reason that goal should have been choked off. I don't know what you think. Starting with Rich, what do you think about that goal?
I'm in the referees club for this one. I think they had every right to chalk it off. Again, when you look at it in live action, it looked fine. But there's a metre rule between the defensive wall and the attacking wall. And before the ball was struck, Gagey, broke that metre. He was pushed within that metre. So therefore, he's not playing with the laws. So unfortunately, he has to be given. It's a shame to see. But if he doesn't have that ball, it either hits him or it hits the Chelsea player.
And I also think that I think the rule is that he needs to be 1 meter out from the wall, and he pushed when the shot got taken. He pushed Caicedo and himself in towards less than that. It doesn't take away from the goal. I think goalkeeper Sanchez just saved that goal. I think it went straight through him. But again, as Rich said, rules are rules in that sense. Where he did push into it. I think at the time when I was watching, I thought, what is this silly rule that's been happening? But again, rules are rules. I think Palace were unlucky about it. I think they were the better team during that game as well. I think Chelsea was very flat throughout the game, and yeah, let's see how it goes for next week, because Chelsea are playing West Ham.
Excited for that. Yeah, there are times where I understand the rules are rules, but it is good when they come in. VAR, in my opinion, works well in that aspect. But then there's other rules. You remember, what's his name again? I got a mind blank. Ivan Toney, when he came back from his ban and he scored that free kick. He placed the ball down, or the ball would move maybe a foot to the right or a foot away from where the referee did the circle, and he scored a goal. And VAR should have intervened there and said, well, it's disallowed goal because you didn't take it where you're meant to take it from. So it's credit that it was actually used in the correct manner and they made the right decision rather than letting stuff like that go.
Well, that's fair. I'm unlucky there for Palace, but I think they play well, to be fair. They gave Chelsea quite a game, and Chelsea are not gelling, even though they played so well the Club World Cups. Do you see Chelsea pushing for a title, or just maybe like being a top 4 contender this season?
Top 5 contender, I would say, because I feel with the British clubs in Europe, I think they're gonna get far in the competition. So I think we're gonna get that 5th place again. But yeah, I can see them getting top 5. I don't think they're title contenders yet because their squad is just too massive. And they're trying to add Garnacho, Travis Simmons. They've added the young boy from Ajax, the centre back, as well. And yeah, I think Maresca is still trying to figure out his best lineup. So he's going to have different formations, different lineups until for like 5 games until he gets comfortable.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think Chelsea will be top 5. I don't think they'll win anything this season. That's far too many rotations, and they're doing sort of like just buying too many players, in my opinion. Like what they're doing is, playing within the system, so fair play to them. But I just don't see how you can handle another season of that many players and still trying to sell players that you don't want anymore. Like Nkunku, they want him to go. Raheem Sterling's still there. They're going to be players. Are they going to become toxic traits to the club? I doubt it. You like to think they're professionals, they won't, but were they? And, you could even say for the Crystal Palace people as well. I don't know if you saw what Gay did after the game. Like, it looks like he was having a bit of a fallout with the manager. The manager was calling him and he just went, nah, I'm not talking to you. You can sod right off, walking off.
I don't think players should do that. I think players should, when they're leaving the game, should clap off their fans. Because especially away fans, because they made their journey to go to see you. They are paying money that is basically going into your pocket. So the first thing you should do is to say thank you to them.
I agree. I completely agree with you. But we've all been there when you've had when you're furious and you just want to get off the pitch. I think as professionals, you have to take away that human factor and your emotions away. But unfortunately, I think it's get the best of you sometimes, and if he apologises, that's probably what you need to do to the fans.
Yeah, I know. I'm also in agreement. Even though the game has been terrible, you've not had a good game. Anything happened in the game, I think you should respect your manager. If your manager's calling you over to talk to you or whatever, respect the manager. Like, just, it's common courtesy. He's the one in charge. He's a gaffer, all right? He's putting out the formations. Just respect him, regardless of what's happening. Respect the gaffer. Appreciate the fans. Football is a sport where the fans and the players feel united. So I think both those things should happen. So I'm not a fan of that when players do that. I think it's just blatant disrespect. And no one is perfect. I mean, we all have those moments, but I think it shouldn't be as much. And moving on to the last match. Okay, one of the last matches we haven't talked about: Liverpool versus Bournemouth. I think.
Wait, before we go into that, Josh, I want your opinion of what happened with Antoine Semenyo. I want you to, if you could talk about that, because the reason I'm asking you is because you play football, and more importantly, you're a black man in that sense.
I think it's the first thing is you usually with racism, it's a bit difficult because it's not often that it's very blatant. Most of the time it's hidden, or if it's blatant, it's in a private capacity. It's not in an open kind of setting. And I just think it's wrong. There is no need. I mean, yes, he's on the opposing team or whatever, he's playing for the opposing team, but he's paid to do that. He's playing the game. He's paid to do. He's playing. He's representing his team. There's no need to be racist towards him, and fair play to Semenyo for actually having the mental strength to pick up and get around, because like I've been in my regular job victim of it, and I had to pick myself up, which was a bit difficult. But so fair play to him to actually still playing on the game and continuing. But I just think there's no place for it in football. Let's just get on. If it's a rival player, hate him as a rival player, or appreciate at least the footballing talent. He's a human being. He's not something else that you should do that. I think across all walks of football, across all races, genders, just keep it out of football. Let it be about football. If you hate him as a Bournemouth player, or as someone who's destroying your club at that time, because he was playing extremely well. 2 goals was it for him? So yeah. If you're not liking what he's doing to your team, fair and fine. Just don't abuse the man. He's doing his job. He's literally paid to play for his club to make them win. Leave the man to do his job. So yeah. That's what I have to say about that.
It's a shame that
Yeah.
they're still in the game. I think it probably came into like the limelight per se. I think it's always been there. But I think it was made very more evident when it was England in the Euros when Rashford, Sancho, and Saka missed their penalties, and then they got all that backlash, all that racist comments, and I think it's just no place because football is the world sport, and there's no place for it. But on a lighter topic. Ekatike is looking really good for Liverpool.
I was going to say, so in my opinion, there's good and bad to Liverpool this season, and I'm going to start with the good for now. First of all, Ekitike is looking fantastic. I am not sure why they want Isak, to be honest with you, besides greed. I mean, yes, you have to have two good strikers, but gosh, I was like, maybe Ekitike is not a finished article. Man, what he was doing for Liverpool in that game was fantastic. So I don't know what more Isak is going to add to the team. Obviously, it's going to make him more potent, but Ekitike, I think it looks ready to lead the line for Liverpool. Fantastic. His hold-up play was good. Link-up play was good. Finishing, obviously, that goal was fantastic. But Rich, I don't know why they want Isak as well.
Let's say they want Isak just because he's a proven goal scorer for the Premier League. Like again, this is one game that he's had where he's played very well in the Premier League, and Isak's proven like he can. He's a double-digit goal scorer, and I think if you want to go reach the next level, you have to have that certainty. You have to just go for that player and think, right, we need him. Ekitike would be very good. Can he play on the left as well? Possibly. They still need a left winger, so they could use him in the same way he used, Gakpo, Diaz, Jota, Russia. So you know what I mean. I just think that they just need an out and out striker who's done it before.
I agree. I think that's one of the main reasons why they want Isak. And compared to Newcastle, I see the reason why Isak would want to go to Liverpool because Liverpool seems the more prized club, and he feels like he can win more through them. And I think that's the main case for most players that they want to win more. But I think the way he's going about it is very disrespectful to the club, especially since they put him on that platform. I know people were talking about him when he was at Sociedad. But I think Newcastle really put him on that platform for him to be that person that everyone wants. In terms of Liverpool against Bournemouth, I say that Ekitike was a highlight, but I think Wirtz needs to step up because he didn't look good in the Community Shield. I don't think he looked good in the Bournemouth games. Could be an adjustment period, who knows? But we have to see. As well, I think Liverpool's defense is looking a bit shaky. I have not seen a Liverpool defense as shaky. They seem to be helping themselves with their goals, countering that with their goals. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think if they do sign Isak, the only thing which I see them having to do is moving Ekitike to the left, and I don't know if I didn't watch much of him last season to see if he can play on the left as well. Because for me personally, like it's if you're gonna sign a 140 mil pound striker, because apparently that's what they're gonna bid reportedly according to reports, and then you've got an 80 mil striker as well. I don't care if one of them is a replacement to that. A, that's a lot of money. B, what's Ekitike gonna think when he's on the bench? If you've bought him in for 80 mil and then you bring another one for 140 mil, I don't see that working out too well. And then what's Gakpo gonna do as well? Because Gakpo can play that position and the left. So who's gonna be playing on the left? So if it's a thing of Ekitike is gonna be your left-sided player, Isak your middle, and then Salah on the right. But then fair, fine. It works out. But having 200 million pounds worth of striker for two people, I don't think it's really good. But, you never know what to do. But I think the work for Liverpool actually is Wirtz will need to come into the game, which I think it will. But their defense is a bit shocking, to be fair. I'd say. Konate was rinsed with Semenyo on that one. So are you happy with Liverpool? I think that if Liverpool doesn't win the title this season, it could be due to defense, not actually goals.
Yeah, I think that will be their main downfall is their defense. I think they need to invest in another centre back and possibly another CM, because I don't think they've fully replaced Fabinho since he's left. and Virgil's getting older now, so he's getting a bit leggy, but he's still Virgil. He's still got that presence, but I don't think he has the partner next to him. I think the last good partner he had was Matip. You can't trust Joe Gomez.
Too injury prone his issue is, I find. But you also have to be with Virgil as well. He's got, Konate, who's in his last year of his contract. You just think he'd be playing out of his skin, but he can be days he can be solid, and there's days where he can't. He reminds you of like a Kurt Zuma in the sense of some days you get Kurt Zuma and he would play out of his skin. You'd be like, what a baller. And the days that do something, you think, what a donkey. And of course, when you got Frimpong right back in, is it Kurikes? I can't pronounce his name.
Kurkish.
He's got two new fullbacks. Okay, I know they both, I think even Frimpong played in Premier League at one point.
I don't think he did. I think
games.
He was in the City Academy and then he went to Celtic.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. Kurikes has anyway. And I think they probably just let the atmosphere get to them. And him with a steady head, he's thinking, oh, bloody hell, everyone's a bit frantic around me. And without Gravenbach in defensive mid, I just think he was a bit exposed. So I do feel sorry for him.
Yeah, I think with Kurikes and Frimpong, especially Frimpong, I think there was a bit of jitters. You could tell there were a bit of like jitters, but I think they grew into the game. My thinking is actually when I think they were taken off early, to be fair. And I think what happened then is that Bournemouth got a bit more brave and started attacking a bit more. And I think that's where Semenyo got a bit more of his freedom. Credit to Arne Slot, he realized it and he changed it. And then that's how they won the game later. So, I mean, I think Arne Slot is an incredible manager because he did that. He removed them, realized it almost cost them the game. He changed it and the changes brought about the win. And fingers crossed, like, I'm a huge fan of Chiesa, even though he didn't play that match last season. So I'm hoping for his sake, he can actually solidify that left wing spot for Liverpool because I would love to see Chiesa lighting it up. I think we're just quickly going to talk about one of the other games, Aston Villa Newcastle. Not too boring, to be fair. That was an interesting red card. I did watch the game. Newcastle lacking bite. No striker. They have no one to feed the ball. Gordon, and as good as he is, he can't lead the line. He has to be on the right for me.
I think Newcastle. If you watch that game, it was a very end-to-end game at the beginning. In the first half, you can tell they need a striker. They were missing that Isak player where they could have won if they had like an Isak type of player, but that doesn't take away from Aston Villa, who are also lacking in certain areas. So yeah, I think both teams were lacking, and it turned into a bit of a snooze fest afterwards.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think Villa have a lot of work to do, just to get themselves back up there. I mean, granted, it was always going to be a difficult game, but I think if either of these teams want to kick on and qualify again, these are the games they should be winning against each other. So either one of the teams. But yeah, that was a poor decision by Conte as well to bring down Gordon, because I think Gordon was going to go onto his right side. So I think you could have led him away from the goal. There was no need to drag him down there. Just stay with him. Just keep up. That's what you need to do because Gordon was going right. So in my opinion, there was no need for Conte to bring him down. But anyway, that's about it. Okay, so as we wrap up, let's quickly look at fixtures which are upcoming. I think we have some very good fixtures actually.
Friday. Rich, I think you should give us our predictions for Friday.
Rich, what is about Friday? Just for those who don't know, Friday is West Ham versus Chelsea.
West Ham at home?
Yeah. West Ham. I can't say anything but a loss for us. I think a 2-0 loss.
I would say a 2-0 loss as well.
I would say it's a loss, definitely, for West Ham. But maybe 1-0, just because if Chelsea gel, it's going to be like a 3-0 loss. If Chelsea don't gel, they're going to scrape by and get something. So, in my opinion, that this is one of those two outcomes. Yeah. Moving on to Saturday,
Big
City Spurs at the Etihad. Khush, you start because I'm still kind of trying to debate who's going to win this one.
I think City's got too much talent for them. I think they're going to roll them. I think they're going to do a 3-0. I don't think the Spurs has the midfield to compete with City's. The defense isn't as strong. against City's attackers, and I feel they're going to get rolled.
Rich, what do you think?
But
'Cause
I can't help but anything. I think a Tottenham win. Like I'm all about I'm all about bogey teams. I said last week I thought Wolves would beat Man City. Of course, I was wrong. I don't mind being wrong. I'm wrong most of the time, to be honest. But I don't know. Can you think Tottenham have always had a history of being a bogey team for Man City and Brentford as well with Thomas Frank, bogey team. And I just think him in that Tottenham team, I just think he'll know how to play against them. And I just think it'd be a 1-0 Tottenham.
I think I see a 2-2 draw for this. Reason being, I would have gone for a Spurs win because, like Rich was saying, that's exactly what I was thinking. Spurs have always been that bogey team for City, always. Under any manager, Spurs have always been that team that City cannot get past. However, so I think Thomas Frank will set them up quite well. It's going to be almost like the PSG game. Maybe you'll move to a back five for that game and, make it very hard to break down and all that. I think for me, the uncertain factor is Rangers. How Rangers will play this game, I think, will change the outcome of the game. So I think that's where the key lays for this game. So just because I'm unsure of Rangers, that's why I'm making a draw, like a 2-2 draw. But I was almost going to say Spurs win, but at the same time, City's coming strong. So I think 2-2 for me personally. Quickly, Brentford, Villa for me is going to win.
You missed the game.
Which one?
Bournemouth,
Is it
Wolves.
Oh, it's the same time slot. So the 3 p.m. games is Brentford, Villa, Burnley, Sunderland, and Bournemouth, Wolves.
Bournemouth is going to beat Wolves. I don't think Wolves have the structure or the. I just don't think they're going to do well. I think Bournemouth have too much on them. I'm going to say 2-0 Bournemouth.
Fair. Rich, what do you think?
I think 2 on Bournemouth.
Yeah. You got such a soft spot for Wolves, man.
To be honest, I do. I think Wolves for me have always been that team that can. I don't know, man. They've just got that ability to not lose badly, if that makes sense. I mean, if they lose, it'd be like a 1-0 thing or whatever. They've got that.
They
They've
lost
got that
4-0
fight.
last weekend, mate.
It's City, bro. Like Rangers was tearing apart. Like Rangers was just raining havoc, like literally. And you've got Haaland, and you haven't got what's his name? You haven't got Cunha anymore. Yeah, but I think the manager's not stupid. I like Wolves' manager. He's not stupid. He's gonna know Bournemouth. He's gonna have seen the game. He's gonna take care of Semenyo. So I'm giving Wolves credit for this. I think Sunderland's gonna steamroll Burnley. So I see another 3-0 there. Yeah. And I think Villa's gonna just narrowly take over Brentford. So 1-0.
I think if Villa's gonna, I think with Villa it's gonna be another 3. I think they're gonna pop 3 past Brentford. They didn't look good at all. They've lost too many key players. And it was evident in that one that they missed Thomas Frank's tactics. 3-0 Brentford. Burnley, Sunderland. I could see Sunderland struggling a tiny bit because they're going to overestimate themselves against Burnley. I think it's going to be maybe 1-0, 1-1. Yeah.
Yes, I think 1-0 Villa. Villa didn't look very strong against Newcastle. Ollie Watkins doesn't look like he's firing at the moment. So I think 1-0 Villa. And I would probably say a 2-0 Sunderland. I just think that they got the strike force and experience, and Burnley don't.
Fair, I hear you. All right, and then Arsenal Leeds. Easy Arsenal win for that, I think.
Oh, it depends because if you saw how Leeds played today, they were pressing and Arsenal if you saw how Arsenal played against United, they didn't do well under the press. So it depends on how good the press is and how good Arsenal can get out of it. I do expect Arsenal to win, but I wouldn't be surprised with a draw.
Fair play. Rich, what do you think?
I can't see anything else but Arsenal win. I just think Leeds would just park the bus. I don't think they'd be as attacking, especially if you're at the Emirates as well. I think Leeds would just think, all right, let's just see us out and hope for the best. David Fartler's been caught up before, trying to go all out against a top Premier League team. and being caught out. So I think it'd be Arsenal win.
Fair play. Moving on, Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest. That's a good game, to be fair. I love the draw I see here, lads, but I think it'll be an entertaining draw, to be fair. A very entertaining draw, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think, but yeah. That's a draw. Maybe like a 2-2 draw as well. That's going to be a masterpiece. I think I'm actually going to try watch this game.
I think Forest have their tails up because they had a dominant victory over was it Brentford? So I could see them winning 2-0 or 1-0 because they can break it.
No for me. I think it'll be a ball draw.
Boring? Nah. Quite fair, but I don't think anything's boring. Everton, Brighton, I think that's going to be a 1-0 win for Brighton.
No. That's going to be another ball draw.
I think 1-0. I think 1-0 Brighton. I was going to say ball draw. But
Everton in their new home, by the way.
Oh, even more sense that it's going to be a Brighton win. Like, we struggled in our first season at London Stadium. I think they'll struggle. But again, theirs is more purpose-built, but I still think they'll struggle.
Fair. And then the last game of that day is going to be Fulham, Manchester United. I'm feeling optimistic. 2-0. I think Seshko might get his debut goal. Cunha is going to do a madness. Mbeumo, Bruno. I see nothing but United win. If I use the Arsenal game as an indicator, I don't know about you.
It depends on if we're consistent enough. If we have the players playing and pressing like we did against Arsenal, then I could see us doing that 2-0. But it's just consistency. But I'm going to say United win 2-0.
Yeah, 2-0 for me as well.
Cool.
Monday.
The last game, which is going to be one of the best games of that weekend as well. Newcastle, Liverpool.
2-1
I
Liverpool.
am going to 2-1. Fair.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting game, but I don't think Newcastle have that firepower to put chances away. I think they're going to get chances, but I don't think they're going to put them away. And Liverpool they have Salah, they've got Ekitike in form, and you can't discount them from winning this game. I think it would be a surprise if they don't.
Yeah, I would love Newcastle to win, just because I think this earlier on it would just make the league a bit more exciting. But I just think Liverpool would do them. I think the Isak is causing too much issues behind the scenes.
I'm expecting a tifo from Newcastle fans saying, "Get out, Isak."
I mean, it's hard to look beyond a Liverpool win for this one. The only thing I'm gonna say is if Newcastle set up defensively, very defensively, and then counter Liverpool, I see Liverpool struggling with that counter because you've got Elanga and Gordon going at you, and as we saw, when Liverpool have pace coming at them, they might crumble a little bit at the back. So I think it depends on that. I'm gonna go with a 2-1 again, like you guys said, to Liverpool. But if Newcastle are able to capitalize on the counter attack like Bournemouth did, and Newcastle have a better defense than Bournemouth, no lie, I might see even a draw. Potentially Newcastle win, but yeah. And with that being said, we're done episode 2, Match Week 1 review. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us, Khush. Lovely to have you as always.
Lovely to have you as well. Rich.
And please do not dream about the Hammers tonight. Just have other sweet dreams, please, if you can.
I'll do my best.
That's okay. Thank you all for joining us. Remember, find us on YouTube and Spotify at the moment. We're going to roll out to other platforms very soon, and we'll let you know of that. But for now, it's goodbye. Take care.
Ciao.
Bye.